Hello, welcome back. I'm Greg Leach. This is Art of Cycling, and this is the final day of the Criterium du Dauphine. Doubt things will change in terms of the general classification, but stranger things have happened. In fact, one of the strange things is the current stage leader is the sprinter who's racking up King of the Mountain points as well. So, things are not exactly going as they normally do. So, I think I've talked about it before, but this is a perfect example of why it works. But in fact, I know I did in previous videos in this particular race. I've talked about these self-imposed rules. That was the one where my wife Bridget chimed in that I'm very strict with myself. And, that is something that's necessary as an artist. Nobody's telling us to work. There's no time clock to punch in the studio. Although I will say that it feels a little bit like that when I'm painting a bike race. It gets a bit intense at times, particularly with the tour. Because the way I do this, so, I'm watching as close to live as possible. And of course, I slowly get further and further behind real time as I paint. Because right now, I've paused the video and work on the particular painting and then restart the video and go on. So naturally I get further and further behind real time. But I paint it, I use the expression as live. So I have no idea as I'm painting this what's going to happen in this stage. I don't know if Vanderbilt is going to stay off the front all the way to win the stage. I hope that happens, but would be a very pleasant surprise. When I started this, I didn't realize that this last guy in the line here, who happens to be Jonas Vingegaard, was almost looking at us. It looks like he's turned around to look at the helicopter. Yes, I know I lost the bit about my rules, but this painting is breaking two of my former rules. One, no verticals, and two, no helicopter shots. And I also explain why I had those seemingly, and admittedly might even be a better way to say it, arbitrary rules. So that his look reminded me of what I was just saying, but now I lost that point. All while trying to paint at the same time. So it almost looks like he's looking back up at the helicopter. So this is Pogacar right here, who's in the yellow jersey, following his teammate Tim Williams, who was following three of the guys from X. Here, actually, let's put another. And this is the Peloton, who's currently, what, 2.5 minutes, 2.25 minutes behind, not past. We're going to call this watching and waiting. I don't know why I can talk while I paint, but not while I write. Actually, I guess that makes sense. So that's the layout I wanted here. Oh, and I've also noticed Tadde's changed his kit up. Last 2 days he's been wearing black shorts. But as you'll see in a moment, he's decided to go for full yellow, which is what he usually does. So I was a little surprised at the black shorts. I actually think it looks better than the yellow shorts. But, you know, what does my opinion matter? And of course, behind Tadde, keeping a close watch, apparently on us, or the helicopter, as he is on, whoops, Tadde is Jonas Vingegaard. So these guys are first and second. Tobias here. His team is riding to defend his 5th place because the guy in 6th is up the road. So there's a lot of, particularly on the last day, there's this, on some occasions there's a chance to actually change the top of the leaderboard. It seems in the Grand Tours, the last day is usually fairly ceremonial, and then they get around to the finish line and it's a sprint day. But so the last day of racing, it's even, you know, competitive racing, even in the Grand Tours, it's rare for positions to change, with the notable exception of the Giro. And again this year, but it seems like virtually every year, the lead in the Giro d'Italia changes on the very last day. This year's tour, it's going to be interesting. If things come down to the final stage, which has been changed. Last year, of course, it was radically different because of the proximity to the start of the Paris Olympics, or the Olympics in Paris. The tour, for the first time in decades, if not actually probably virtually ever, did not end on the Champs-Élysées. Now this year it will end on the Champs-Élysées, but they've thrown in several circuits. So they come in, do that first circuit where the sprint is on the Champs, and then they go out and basically race the, sorry, I'm also thinking here at the same time, race the same course that they raced in the Paris Olympics. So they're going to go up Montmartre, up and over Montmartre 3 times, I think it is. So there's also KOM points on the final day, which is also uncommon. So, unless somebody is really far ahead, and there's somebody, that somebody probably being one of these two guys, there won't be a lot of champagne toasting going on in this year's final stage, as is the tradition. I'm hoping we go right down to Paris for the final competition. I mean, used to be, there was a time trial. Well, there's oftentimes been a time trial right before the last day. That was what happened when Greg LeMond, the American, the first American to win a Tour de France by 8 seconds over his own teammate, which probably didn't go over real well, but it was a time trial, so he was a little more free to fly. So this painting is a fairly simple one, and I've talked about the color harmonies and color schemes and such, but with also being the one documenting the tour, I'm a little bit stuck because I also see I left out some red on this helmet of Tim Wellens. So I'll leave that little spot and I can come back. Unlike in my large scale figurative works where there's no sometimes there's a documentation element, but generally speaking, there's no documentation going on. I can manipulate the color scheme. But in this case, there's the yellow jersey. X wears red. There's, the yellow kit with black accents of Visma Lisa bike. The UAE kit is a very specific, so there's specific colors I have to have because I'm documenting actual things. That being said, there is still a color scheme going on here. But in this case, it's what's called analogous. Analogous color scheme is one that is colors next to each other on the color wheel. So this is reds, yellows, little teeny bit of orange. So those are the colors next to each other in the color wheel. So that becomes this scheme. So to one degree, that's a happy accident. But if I was looking for complement, I would find a way maybe to work some grass into this. But the lanes, the grass would be over here. So didn't quite make the picture frame. But it still works. But that would be a way, to add that color balance. So, by example, this one is all greens and just a little teeny bit of red. Again, that's part of his team's logo, despite being in the green jersey. So, there oftentimes is a way to work around your dilemma. about color scheme. But it's something to consider. And then I've said this many times in many of these videos and in lectures and whatnot. No one is ever going to see what you painted from. Well, a lot of people are watching this race unfold and may recognize this particular scene. But again, generally speaking, no one's going to see what you're painting from. They're only going to see what you painted. So make that work. So I'm going to finish laying in the road. I just noticed, and I'm going to remind myself to put that last little bit of red in there. And this painting will eventually, actually by the time you see this, it'll be up on my cycling blog, theartofcycling.blogspot.com. There you'll find links on each painting back to my website, gregleach.com, where this painting and most of the paintings I've done of this race are available. I am thrilled that one that I did of a sprinter winning the stage, his dad, on Father's Day, just bought the painting of his own son. I think that's so cool. So I got a painting to ship off to England. So thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Thank you. Oh, shoot, now I don't remember your name, but I got some lovely remarks from one of the people watching these. I really appreciate it. And I'll leave it there. I'll be back. This is the last of this race. This is the last of cycling until the start of the Tour de France. So there should be a new one of these in first part of July. I may be able to get another painting done before then in the studio, full scale. But thanks again for watching. Appreciate it.